So for the viewership, this video is going to start very basic, but by the end of it, it is going to be pretty complicated. So if you're a beginner, you can watch it till the end. If you're a intermediate, you can watch it till the end. If you're an advanced pilot, you can scoff at it all you like. Okay, so there's a lot of videos on YouTube that are explaining generally how to do various tricks. I don't think that flying these things has reached a point where it's become like skateboarding or snowboarding, where every trick has a name and you can actually practice specific tricks. So what I'm going to try to do with my, I guess, trick series is going to be kind of trying to teach you the letters so that you can make your own sentences, own words and sentences. So what I mean by that is I'm going to break down specific moves so that you can flow with them and create them however you will on your own. With that being said, let's first discuss how these things fly. So these things do not fly like planes. Planes fly level like this. Quads do not fly level, they fly at a tilt, and this pencil here is to indicate the direction of the camera being pointed. So it's about 40 degrees, so when I'm at tilt like this, that's about 40 degrees, and that's what the pencil is there to indicate. So now we know that the quad does not fly like a plane at all, so don't think of it like a plane. And let's go with the most basic move. Let's go with just turning, just smooth turning. You want to do a smooth turn, you know, right turn, nothing special. And let's break that move down into its components. So you're going forward, about 40 degrees tilt, you know, nothing special. And then let's stop here. You want to do a smooth turn right. So what does that involve? People that have been flying have realized that you need to turn the yaw stick and the roll stick at the same time in order to do a smooth turn. Let's break it down and see why that is. So let's first do a 90 degree, or not 90 degree, let's just rotate the roll right just a little bit. Okay, so now we've rotated the right a little bit. We haven't yet, if we just hit the gas, we're just gonna go this way. We haven't yet turned. So our camera is pointing not really in the direction that we want to go in. So when you yaw as well as roll, you're going to yaw right a little bit, and now you see that the orientation that the quad is in is that these front motors are kind of moving in the direction. The top rear left motor is kind of kicking out the back of the quad, and it's going to cruise around the turn at this weird slanted angle because there's nothing natural about how this thing flies. So that's how you do a smooth turn. So you're going to come into the turn and you're going to do a smooth roll and a yaw. Usually you need less yaw than roll. And that's how you do a smooth turn. That's the most basic component of flight for these things. And that is basically what all the tricks entail. If you can, the most unique thing about the way these things fly is the yaw in particular, because I don't think there's any other craft that can yaw like a multirotor. I mean, helicopters can, but they're kind of sort of in the same general category. So let's go with that and discuss the next move, which I discussed in my last video, but I'm going to do it again so that you can understand. It is how to do a full roll while keeping your camera pointed in the direction of travel or pointed on a target. So now I'm going to hold the pencil and I'm going to show you what that actual rotation is. So that is the rotation you have to do in the air. That's actually a really complex move. Let's do it again. And in the last video, I said that you had to roll one direction and yaw the opposite direction. Well, let's break it down and see why that is. So we are, once again, flying. First off, let's just do a roll. Let's do a 180 degree roll. And then if you do that with this 40 degree camera tilt, you're looking straight down. And that's usually what we do to, you know, dive down trees or buildings or whatever. Very easy, very nice. Looks very fluid, very pretty, but sometimes you don't want to look straight down. You want to look in the direction of travel. So let's do that again, and let's just do a 90 degree roll this time. 90 degree roll. You notice that the camera is definitely not pointed in the direction of travel, and it's pointed kind of like down to the right. And so now let's yaw left 90 degrees. Now the camera is pointed in the direction of travel. So now when you break down these two moves, you understand why you have to roll one direction and yaw the other direction to pull the camera back into the line of view, the line that you actually want to be looking in. And that is why you do the opposite coordinated movements. And that's why doing these movements with these multi-rotors is so complicated. And also, the reason why I do not recommend anybody use any of those handicaps in Betaflight or CleanFlight or whatever that compensates for the angle of the camera, because sometimes you just want to look straight down when you roll. Sometimes you want to keep it centered when you roll. So it's really just a handicap. And on top of that, because it's always active, when you try to do a smooth turn, you have to input more yaw because it's trying to compensate for your yaw movements. So don't use that. It's not worth it. All right, so now we have the ability to do the camera focused roll maneuver. And not to say that like everybody should be doing Matty Stunts tricks, but I think that Matty Stunts does more technical moves than any other person that I've seen. And so I'm going to kind of base the things that I teach on him because they are so technical. And so let's go with the entrance to many of his moves. Many of Matty Stunts moves involve an entrance of just a 180-degree inversion with the camera focused. So he flies with extreme tilt. It doesn't matter. Depending on whatever tilt you have, you will need more or less yaw. You will get the feel of that on your own. You're going to do these tricks real sky high before you try to do them low anyways. But once you get the feel for it, you can fly forward real quick and then do a real quick 180 yaw, which involves a roll right, yaw left, or a roll left and a yaw right. And now you are floating inverted. And this is what the inverted float is. And if there's anything that is kind of the Matty Stunts signature move, it is this, the inverted float. And once you start doing this inverted float, you can pull out of it however way you want. You can, pull forward, you can, flip backwards and do whatever. So that's up to you. So like I said, teaching you the letters, not teaching you the words or the sentences, and you can make those up as you go along. So that is the alley-oop. You do a 180-degree invert, float upside down with the camera pointed in the direction of travel, and as you go underneath the object, you pitch forward and you pull up out of the move. So you're floating upside down and you just pitch forward and you hit the gas and you come up. So that is the move. Floating, you start hitting the gas right about there and you pour it on more and more and you go. So because that move is kind of not difficult, but it takes some practice, I'm going to give you kind of the fake way to do it, and let's try this. So you're moving at 40 degrees tilt, and there's a way you can kind of execute the inverted float, but it looks a little different and you have to do it at the right time. So let's say you're let's say you're moving straight, and now all you do is a yaw rotation. You do not touch, pitch, or roll. What is that going to do? Well, let's try it. Let's do a 90-degree yaw rotation. There's 90-degree yaw. I'm still 40 degrees. The angle of travel is still the same. 90-degree yaw rotation. If I keep my throttle the same, I'm still moving in that same direction of travel. I'm just flying sideways. Let's do it another 90 degrees. There you go. Now I'm flying straight backwards. I keep the throttle the same, or maybe give a little more throttle because I'm afraid of hitting the ground. But same thing. I'm traveling the same direction, same altitude, and I'm going straight backwards. So what this looks like is that if you're going forward and as you're going under a tree, under an object, you do a quick flip 180 yaw, you are now traveling under the object while looking up at the object, at the tree, at whatever you're doing. And that looks really interesting because it's kind of mind-bending. It looks really weird. So that's a way to kind of trick it. And then once you do that, the exits to the move will be a little bit different, or you can do different things. You can either flip backwards like I do, like I like doing, or you can pull up like the Matty flip and do whatever you like with it. All right, so those are kind of all the basics. Now I'm going to get to something that is a little bit more complicated, a little more complex. So first of all, check this little clip out. What's happening here is that I'm actually orbiting the tree backwards. And sorry, I have to use the simulators because I don't have time to fly all the time, so I get home when it's dark and the simulators just are there. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually orbiting around the tree, inverted, upside down, reverse orbit. I don't even have a name for it. I don't know what to call it. But what's happening is I'm going around the tree upside down. And the way this is possible is you can do it with about 40 degrees tilt, but it's really difficult because you'll need a really tall object and you'll have to go really fast. The reason why Matty likes flying with 60 degrees tilt or more is because he can actually fly backwards and look straight back where he's going and just give it gas and go straight. And he needs a lot of power and a really light quad so that he can fly at like 75 degrees tilt while looking straight backwards. So it looks like his inverted floats or upside down floats are traveling on forever when all he's doing is just flying backwards. But let's break down how to do that same smooth turn forward but backwards. And that is going to be the secret to all these backwards moves. So once again, we are traveling in this angle, which is going to be 40 degrees, but on a reverse plane. You see the camera is pointing straight up. And we are traveling, and hopefully we're traveling under some trees or under some objects so that we can actually see where we're going. Because if you're not, then you cannot see where you're going because you're flying blind. We're traveling backwards, and then let's try to turn right. So we are reversed now. So the pitch and the roll is reversed also. So in order to turn right, we actually have to turn left. Remember, this is left rotation, left. And now we have to yaw right. So remember, so we're traveling left. Remember, we're backwards, so everything's reversed. This movement is right on the quad. So we're going to turn left in order to turn right. And then once we're at that movement, we actually have to yaw. Remember, it's reversed, but right. We have to yaw right to kick out that far corner and do the smooth backwards turn. So in order to fly backwards, you are doing reversed coordination on the yaw sticks. And you can actually fly backwards. It's not really that big of a deal. And in the simulator, I have some trouble doing it, but in real life, it's easier because I'll fly with higher tilt and things just feel right in real life. But this is how you break your rear arms a lot. This is how I've broken a lot of rear arms because I fly backwards at full speed. It's a little sketchy, and I recommend if you do try it, you can't do it high up. This is an advanced move. You have to do it low to the ground because you have to do it underneath objects or you cannot see where you're going. Yeah, there are a couple other yaw moves, a couple other yaw things, but I personally think that mastering the yaw on these things, I mean, I don't know about mastering. I don't think anybody will really master it too easily, but mastering the yaw on these things is key to doing a lot of the movements. And with this basic idea, as you get better with it, as you grow with it, you will kind of unlock new things, notice new things that you're doing in the air without even thinking about it. But it all comes down to the very basic movement of yaw. The roll is there, the pitch is there, we all know that. It's the yaw that's unique to these things, and that's what's going to give you the ability to do things that are just mind twisting, that just doesn't fly the way anybody thinks about because it's not a plane. It's a multi-rotor, but you can make it look like a plane when you fly and then do crazy things. That's it. I hope that helped.